Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we try to, cut through the noise and get you truly well informed. Have you ever found yourself sort of dreaming of studying abroad? Maybe somewhere just bursting with culture, history, and a quality of life that, well, it just sings.
Uh,
Well, you're definitely not alone there. There's this growing buzz around global education, and today we're taking a really significant deep dive. We're looking at a potentially life-changing academic adventure studying in Portugal. Specifically, we're focusing on the Portugal D4 Study Visa for 2025.
hmm
Okay, let's unpack this. Portugal is truly buzzing as a destination, isn't it? And for good reason.
It absolutely is. Yeah, Portugal's really gained recognition fast as this, attractive spot for international education.
Yeah.
And what truly sets it apart, I think, is how it manages to blend really high-quality academic programs with pretty competitive costs.
Right.
Plus, it's remarkably safe, and the quality of life is just
Yeah.
excellent. It's a really compelling mix, offering more than just, hitting the books.
Yep.
So our mission today is basically to give you a clear roadmap.
Hmm.
We want to strip away the info overload and help you become a really well-informed applicant.
Hmm.
We'll cover everything from like initial eligibility all the way through to what life looks like after graduation.
Think of it as your shortcut.
Exactly. A shortcut to truly understanding this exciting opportunity.
So if Portugal's the place, let's get into the specifics. What are the big wins of getting this D4 visa? What makes it stand out, really, in the whole landscape of international study?
Okay, yeah, good question. The D4 visa offers this whole package of benefits, right? And what's particularly empowering for students, I think, is just how much is included from the get-go.
Mm-hmm.
First off, it gives you legal residence in Portugal for your entire study period. That's fundamental.
Okay.
Beyond that, you get access to the Portuguese healthcare system, the SNS, the National Health Service. That's a huge plus.
Definitely.
And crucially, and this is a really key difference from many other countries, it automatically includes work permission.
Oh, automatically. You don't need a separate application for that.
Nope. You can work up to 20 hours a week during the academic year and full-time during official school breaks. It's
Cool.
just part of your student residence permit. No extra hoops to jump through for that permission.
Wow, okay. That seamless work permission sounds like a massive advantage for students wanting to, support themselves a bit. So you can earn while you learn, basically, without tons of extra bureaucracy.
Precisely. Yeah, that's exactly it. And the benefits, they go way beyond just your time in class. You get travel freedom within the whole Schengen area.
Right, easy travel around Europe.
Exactly. That means hopping over to Spain or France or wherever without border checks. Under certain conditions, there are also possibilities for family reunification, so loved ones might be able to join you.
Okay.
But maybe one of the most compelling things long-term is the clear pathway it offers after you study. You
Yeah.
can stay in Portugal to look for work, and it leads towards permanent residency and even citizenship after 5 years.
5 years? Wow.
Yeah. And like we touched on, tuition fees are often lower than many other European spots, and there's this growing number of English-taught programs. So it's accessible, even if your Portuguese isn't perfect yet.
Okay, so assuming a listener is now thinking, all right, this sounds pretty good, the next big question is, who can actually get one of these? Who's eligible to even start this whole process? And what kind of programs does the D4 cover? Is it just for university degrees?
Right, the benefits are strong. And that leads straight into who can actually grab them, because the D4 visa is meant to be pretty inclusive.
Okay.
The basic criteria are fairly straightforward. You need to be a non-EU, non-EEA, or non-Swiss citizen. That's the first hurdle.
Got it.
You obviously need acceptance into an accredited Portuguese educational institution. That's key. You have to show you have enough money, sufficient financial means to support yourself, and you need arranged accommodation in Portugal.
Accommodation sorted beforehand.
Well, proof you have it arranged, yeah.
Hmm.
Plus, valid health insurance that covers Portugal and a clean criminal record. Those are sort of the non-negotiables.
Makes sense.
What's really interesting, though, is the range of programs covered. It's not just uni degrees.
Hmm.
It includes bachelor's, master's, doctoral programs, definitely, but also exchange programs like Erasmus plus SA,
Ah, okay.
technical and vocational education, too, and even language courses.
Mhm.
Though, for language courses, there's a catch. They have to be at least 20 hours a week.
Minimum 20 hours, right?
Yeah, minimum 20 hours. And it even covers research programs and internships as long as they're part of an official educational curriculum. So it's flexible. It goes beyond just traditional academia. It really meets a lot of different student needs.
Okay, let's talk brass tacks then. Money. You mentioned sufficient financial means. What are the actual requirements? We hear about minimum wages, living costs.
Right.
What's the number you need to show for 2025, and how do you actually prove it?
Right, the money question. For 2025, you need to show you have funds equivalent to the Portuguese minimum wage. So that translates to proving a minimum monthly income of 870 euros.
Like 870 euros per month.
Per month, yes. So if you're looking at a typical 9-month academic year, you'd need to show a total of 7,830.
Okay.
If your program runs for a full 12 months, that number goes up to 10,440 for the year.
Gotcha.
Now, what's quite student-friendly about the Portuguese system here is how they might consider your confirmed part-time work plans as part of your financial proof. That's a real practical edge compared to some other places.
Oh, interesting. So it's not just money sitting in the bank.
Not necessarily solely that, no. You can show it through the usual ways, of course.
Uh-huh.
Bank statements, scholarship award letters, maybe a financial guarantee from a sponsor like your parents, or it could be a combination, including those confirmed work plans.
Right.
And having your Portuguese NAF, that's your tax ID number, can really help simplify things like opening a bank account and managing finances once you're there. Can smooth things along.
Okay, that NIF sounds important to get sorted early then. Now, Portugal has such a rich academic history. What types of institutions might a student actually be looking at? And what about the language of instruction? Is everything in Portuguese?
Yeah, the NIF is definitely helpful. And you're right about the academic tradition. Portugal's higher ed system is quite diverse. You've got the universities, think University of Lisbon, Porto, Coimbra. These tend to be more theoretical, more research-focused.
The big names.
Exactly. Then you have the polytechnic institutes like the ones in Lisbon or Porto. These are generally more practical, more professionally oriented, often focused on applied sciences, tech, that sort of thing.
Okay, more hands-on.
Yeah. And there are private universities and colleges, too, offering maybe more specialized programs. The whole system follows the Bologna process, that standard European framework. So the degrees, licenciatura, bachelor's 3 to 4 years, Mestrado, master's 1-2 years, doutoramento, doctoral 3 to 4 years, are recognized internationally.
Right, that's good to know.
Now, language. Portuguese is the main language, yes. But, and this is really important, there's a strategically growing number of English-taught full degree programs, especially at the master's and PhD levels.
So they're actively trying to attract international students that way.
Definitely. It's a conscious effort. Plus, most places offer Portuguese language courses for international students to help them settle in, integrate, which honestly we'd highly recommend doing anyway.
Yeah, makes sense for daily life. Okay, this paints a really compelling picture. Now, for many listeners, the next logical step, and maybe the part that seems most daunting, is actually applying. So how do you do it? What's the step-by-step, and what are the absolute must-have documents you need to get right?
It can seem like a mountain, but if you break it down, it's manageable. Step 1, logically, is secure acceptance. Get that official letter from a Portuguese institution.
Okay, acceptance first. Got it.
Once you have that golden ticket, you move to step 2, prepare for your visa application. And this is where you need to be meticulous. You'll gather all your documents, get non-Portuguese ones translated, and crucially, apostilled or legalized.
Apostilled. What's that exactly?
It's basically an official certification from authorities in your home country saying the document is legitimate for international use. It's a fancy stamp of approval.
Okay. So certified translations and that apostille.
Exactly. You also need to get your health insurance sorted, arrange your accommodation proof, and gather that financial proof we talked about. All this before you apply for the visa itself.
Right. So a lot of upfront legwork on the documents before you even submit the visa form.
Precisely. Then comes step 3. Submit your visa application. You do this at the Portuguese consulate or embassy in your home country or a country of legal residence. There's usually a fee, around €90. You'll give biometric data, fingerprints, photos, maybe an interview. Depends on the consulate.
Okay.
Step 4 is just waiting. Processing typically takes 30 to 60 days, but honestly, it can vary. Patience is key here.
Deep breaths.
Exactly. If all goes well, step 5 is receiving your visa. It'll be a temporary, usually 4-month, residency visa stamped in your passport. This lets you enter Portugal.
Okay, so that visa gets you in.
Right. Step 6 is traveling to Portugal, ideally with enough time before your course starts. And then finally, step 7, apply for your residence permit. This happens after you arrive. With AMA, that's the Agency for Integration, Migration and Asylum. There's another fee here, usually around €100 for the application and then later for the card itself. And you'll initially get a 1-year residence card.
Okay, that's the full journey. Now, the documents. Can we boil that down? What are the absolute essentials people need to gather, maybe by category?
Yeah, let's group them. For personal documents, your valid passport, obviously, with at least 6 months validity left after your planned stay, the completed visa application form, recent passport-style photos, a criminal record certificate from your country usually covering the last 5 years, travel insurance minimum €30,000 coverage, valid for at least the initial 4 months, and a form authorizing Portugal to check your criminal record there too.
Got it. Personal stuff covered. What about academic?
Academic documents, that all-important acceptance letter, proof you've paid tuition if required upfront, your transcripts and diplomas from previous schooling, language proficiency, proof English or Portuguese depending on the course, and if it's research, your study plan or proposal.
Makes sense. And financial and where you'll live.
Right, financial and accommodation, proof of those sufficient funds we discussed, proof of your accommodation arrangement in Portugal, and if you have it, your Portuguese NIF number, that tax ID. Like I said, getting that NIF sorted early, it can really smooth things along, especially for banking and even renting.
Yeah, sounds like a key piece.
Lastly, health. Proof of that medical insurance valid in Portugal. And depending on your field, maybe vaccination records. And just to stress it again, all documents not in Portuguese. They generally need official translation and that apostille or legalization.
Okay, thorough list. Now, let's try and put some timing and cost figures on this whole thing. What's a realistic overall timeline from I want to study in Portugal to actually being in class? And what are the rough costs involved, both the official fees and just, living there?
Timeline-wise, you really need to plan ahead. We generally recommend starting the whole process, like 6 to 9 months before your program begins.
6 to 9 months. Wow, okay.
Yeah, just applying to universities and getting accepted can take 3 to 6 months itself. Then the visa processing, like we said, is typically 30 to 60 days, but you have to factor in potential delays. And once you land in Portugal, getting that residence permit processed by AMA can take another 1 to 3 months. So yeah, planning well in advance is crucial. Don't leave it late.
Definitely noted. Plan way ahead. What about the costs then? You mentioned some fees.
Right. The government fees are fairly set. About €90 for the visa application, around 170 for the residence permit application once you're in Portugal, and then usually another 156 years for the actual issuance of the residence permit card. So add those up.
Okay, so maybe around 400, €420 in just those official fees, roughly. What about tuition and the cost of living day to day?
Yeah, that's where it varies more. Annually, public university tuition for international students might be somewhere between, say, €3,000 and €7,000.
Yeah.
Private universities could be more like 5,000 to 12,000 a year, plus books and materials, maybe 500 to €1,000.
Okay. And living expenses month to month?
This really depends on the city and your lifestyle, obviously. Accommodation is the big one. Shared apartment, maybe €300, €600 a month. Your own place could be €500 to 1,000, or even more in central Lisbon or Porto.
Right. Location matters a lot there.
Big time. Food, maybe €200, €300 a month if you cook mostly. Transport, with student discounts, around €30 for a monthly pass. Utilities, internet, maybe €80, €50. Health insurance top-up if needed, €20, personal stuff, going out, etc., maybe 150, 250.
Damn, so add it all up.
Your total monthly budget could realistically fall anywhere between, say, €780 on the very frugal end, up to maybe 1,800 or more if you're in a private flat in a prime location. So while Portugal is generally more affordable than many Western European neighbors,
Yeah.
your city choice makes a huge difference to your bottom line.
Good to keep in mind. Okay, so beyond the paperwork, the timelines, the costs, what's student life actually like in Portugal? Where do students typically live? How does the healthcare access work once you're settled? And can you really work while studying? We touched on the permission, but how easy is it?
Right, the practicalities of daily life. Student life in Portugal is generally seen as really vibrant, and there's quite a bit of support. For accommodation, university residences are the cheapest option, maybe €150, €350 a month, but they're limited supply and fill up super fast.
Hard to get into then.
Can be, yeah. Apply early. Private student residences are more plentiful, offer more amenities, but cost more, maybe €350, €50. The most common route for international students is probably sharing a private apartment. Costs vary hugely by city, like €250 plus per room, with Lisbon and Porto definitely at the higher end.
And renting your own place.
Possible, but pricier, maybe €500, 1,200 plus, depending on size and location. Getting that initial accommodation sorted before you arrive, even if temporary, just gives huge peace of mind.
Definitely. What about healthcare? You mentioned the SNS.
Yeah, once you get your official residence permit, you register with your local health center and get access to the National Health Service. SNS. You'll pay small fees for appointments or treatments, but it's heavily subsidized. Remember, though, you still need that private health insurance for the initial visa application and your first few months.
Gotcha. And getting around. Banking.
Public transport is generally really good, especially in cities. Student discounts make monthly passes quite affordable, like 30–40 euro. Setting up a student bank account is usually straightforward once you're there, but again, you'll absolutely need that NIF, your tax number, to do it.
Okay, NIF is key again. And the work situation, permission is automatic. But what kind of jobs are there? What do they pay?
Yeah, the automatic permission is a huge plus. You can work up to 20 hours a week during term time, full-time during holidays. Common jobs. Things like working at the university itself, maybe in libraries or admin. Tourism and hospitality are big, especially in Lisbon, Porto, the Algarve. Language-related jobs like tutoring or translation if you have skills, and increasingly roles in tech startups, particularly in Lisbon and Porto.
And the pay.
Student wages typically range from maybe 5 to 10 euros per hour. Depends on the job, your skills, the region. Specialized skills obviously might command a bit more, but it definitely helps offset living costs.
Okay, that's really practical info. So fast forward, you've done your degree, you've graduated. What happens next? Can you actually stay in Portugal long term? Does all that time studying count towards residency or even citizenship? That's the big what if for a lot of people, right?
Absolutely. And the good news is the D4 visa is really designed with these long-term prospects in mind. It's not just study and leave. After you graduate, you've got several pathways.
Look what?
Well, first, you can apply for a 12-month job seeker extension. This basically gives you a year after graduation to stay legally in Portugal and find qualified employment.
Okay, a year to find a job? That's decent.
It is. And if you secure a job offer during your studies or during that job seeker period, you can directly convert your permit to a D1 work visa or the relevant work permit. There's also an entrepreneur pathway, the D2 visa, if you want to start your own business. They often have slightly more flexible requirements for recent graduates, too.
Interesting.
And for researchers or academics, there are often special provisions that make staying on even easier.
So it sounds like there are options. Now, the really big one, residency and citizenship. How does the timeline work? Does student time count?
It does, and this is where it gets really compelling. The pathway is quite clear. You start with your initial one-year student residence permit. You renew it each year you're studying. After studies, maybe you use that 12-month job seeker period. Once you transition to a work permit or other residency type, that's usually granted for 2 years initially, then renewed for 3 years.
Okay.
Now, the magic number is 5. After 5 years of continuous legal residency in Portugal, and crucially, your time as a student counts towards this 5 years, you become eligible to apply for permanent residency.
Student time counts fully.
Yes, and here's the really exciting update, especially relevant for 2025 applicants. There was a recent clarification or change in interpretation, the 5-year countdown for citizenship eligibility. It now starts from the moment you submit your application for your initial residence permit after arriving in Portugal, not from when the permit is finally approved and issued, which could sometimes take months.
Whoa, okay, hold on. So the clock starts ticking for citizenship much earlier than people thought, from basically the day you apply for that first student residence card.
Essentially, yes. From the moment of the formal request for residence, this is a really significant development. It potentially shaves months off the perceived timeline towards citizenship eligibility. It makes the long-term prospect much clearer, much faster for students. It's a genuine game changer for long-term planning.
That is a game changer. Wow. Okay, so your time studying truly counts from the absolute get-go towards that 5-year mark for both permanent residency and citizenship eligibility. That makes Portugal incredibly compelling for someone thinking long-term.
Exactly. It signals a real welcome for students who want to integrate and stay.
Okay, shifting gears slightly. What about financial help? Are there scholarships available? And back to language, how vital is learning Portuguese if you're enrolled in an English-taught program?
Good questions. On scholarships, yes, there are definitely avenues to explore. You could look at government-funded options. The Camões Institute, for instance, offers scholarships often related to Portuguese language and culture studies. The FCT, the Foundation for Science and Technology, is key for research grants, PhD funding.
Okay, government sources.
Right. Then there are things like the Erasmus Mundus scholarships for specific joint master's programs involving Portuguese universities. And importantly, many Portuguese universities offer their own scholarships. These could be based on academic merit, sometimes financial need, maybe targeting students from specific countries.
So check directly with the universities too.
Absolutely. Check their websites, contact their international offices. Also look into bilateral agreements between Portugal and your home country. Sometimes specific funding exists through those channels, so do your research there.
Got it. And the language. If your course is in English, how much Portuguese do you really need day to day?
Well, for the academic program itself, if it's taught in English, you'll need good English proficiency, typically B2 or C1 level. You won't need Portuguese for the course.
Right.
However, for your life outside the classroom, we strongly, strongly recommend learning at least some basic Portuguese. It just makes everything easier and richer. Daily interactions, shopping, dealing with bureaucracy sometimes, making local friends.
Yeah, integration, basically.
Exactly. It shows respect for the culture, opens doors socially, and can even improve your part-time job prospects. Most universities offer Portuguese language courses for internationals. Take advantage of them. Maybe do a pre-sessional course before you start, or take classes alongside your degree. Use language apps. Find conversation partners. Even just practicing your bom dia and obrigado makes a difference.
Good practical advice. Okay, zooming out a bit, we talked about institutions, but where in Portugal should people consider studying? Are some regions better than others? And are there any other specific updates or things to know for 2025 beyond that great citizenship clock news?
Location definitely matters. You have some main hubs. Lisbon, the capital, obviously has major institutions like the University of Lisbon, Novia. It's super vibrant, cosmopolitan, strong in tech, business, tourism studies. But it's also the most expensive city for accommodation and general living costs.
Right, capital city prices.
Yeah. Then you've got Porto up north, home to the University of Porto, really strong in engineering, medicine, architecture, arts. It's historic, but also very modern, lots going on, generally a bit more affordable than Lisbon.
Okay, Porto sounds like a strong alternative.
It is. And then there's Coimbra. This is the classic university town, home to one of Europe's oldest universities. Very traditional academic atmosphere, strong in law, humanities, life sciences. It has a unique student culture.
The historic choice.
Exactly. Beyond those big three, you have other great cities, like Braga, often ranked high for quality of life. Aveiro, sometimes called the Venice of Portugal, strong in tech. Faro, down in the Algarve, good for marine sciences, tourism. And Evora in the Alentejo, history, agriculture. These often offer excellent programs at a lower cost of living, so worth looking beyond the big two or three.
Good overview. Options for different tastes and budgets. Now, any other key special considerations for 2025 that applicants should be aware of? Things that might make the process smoother.
Yes, definitely. Besides the citizenship timeline clarification, AMA, the immigration agency, is actively working on processing improvements. They've been rolling out enhanced online platforms, including for student permit renewals, aiming for more efficiency. There's talk of priority processing for students, at least in certain contexts, and dedicated support desks at major university campuses are becoming more common.
That sounds promising. Less waiting, hopefully.
That's the goal. Also, they've periodically extended the validity of certain documents due to past backlogs, like expired residence cards, being valid until June 30th, 2025 in some cases. It provides a bit of a safety net while systems catch up. Worth checking the latest on the AIMA website for specifics.
Okay, good practical tip. Anything else?
We're also seeing continued digital education integration, more flexible learning options, better online resources, which was partly accelerated by the pandemic but is now just embedding itself. And ongoing post-COVID adjustments mean universities are generally quite focused on health protocols and student well-being support services. These are all signs, really, that the system is trying to adapt and become more supportive for international students.
That's all really positive to hear. Okay, let's try and wrap this up. It feels like the Portugal D4 Study Visa offers this really structured, genuinely appealing pathway. You get quality education in a country that's just known for its amazing culture, safety, quality of life. The tuition fees seem competitive, especially compared to other places in Europe. There are more and more English-taught programs popping up, and those post-graduation pathways leading towards residency and citizenship, especially with that 5-year clock starting so early now, that's incredibly attractive.
Absolutely. It's not just about coming for a degree and leaving. It really feels like a tangible first step towards potentially building a longer-term future, either in Portugal itself or using it as a base within the European Union.
Yeah, it's more than just an education visa. It's like an opportunity visa in many ways.
It really can be. So thinking about all this, what does it really mean for you, the listener, Maybe the deepest dive here isn't just memorizing the visa steps or the costs. Maybe it's thinking about how embracing a completely new academic environment, a whole new cultural landscape like Portugal,
Hmm.
how that could profoundly shape your own global perspective, how it could unlock a future, perhaps, that you haven't even imagined yet.